Episode 7 of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers is out now, and you'll be seeing this on Saturday, but I am watching it today. I watched it a few hours ago, and I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I think it's one of the best ones. It's not the best one. I still have to give that to episode 6, the one before this. It was just by far the best one, although this one had a lot of things I loved, and a lot of things I didn't so much like. But let's get the negatives out of the way first, because why not? And of course, spoiler warning as always, because I feel like that's necessary. I mean, these are just kind of recap reviews type things where I go through most of the episode. But basically it starts off and the team is still mad at Evan. And I was like, okay, I expected it to open like this, and I think I said in my last review, or maybe the review before that, I kind of know where the show's going. And yeah, I was pretty correct, although there are a few twists and turns in here that I think were good, but they open it up and the team's mad. And you obviously know they're not gonna stay mad at him the whole episode. This is the episode that's gonna fix everything, and Alex basically takes like all the team, all the kids, and locks them in their dressing room, like actually, and I thought it was funny. It's like, yeah, it's a player meeting as they call it, and it was funny, and it led to some things that were good in there and some things that weren't. The two girls who made that TikTok together, I don't like how I'm saying that. The one kind of snaps at the other one randomly, and I'm like, why was that there? It didn't really need to be there. There were like a few lines there that didn't really need to be there, and I was like, that's weird. I get they're doing it for the sake of them all fighting, and I think it was a smart idea. And then Bombay's outside and he asks Alex like what she did, and she's like, oh yeah, I locked them in there. She's like, I want to go in, and he's like, no. And then he cuts the power, but he doesn't tell them, but it is quite obvious. Like, I knew right away. I'm like, yeah, he cut the power. So then he moves them to the pond, and it's called Pond Hockey, and the episode is called Pond Hockey. And for those, I feel like a lot of these will be Americans who are watching, because that's just most of who watches my channel. Pond Hockey, so much fun. I play so many times every year, like ODR, outdoor rink. Actually, I have a video. It's not on a pond, but it's on an ODR. I'll put it up here. This is from before COVID, actually, start of 2020. And I think this was one of the smartest things the episode did, because Bombay takes them out there and he kind of takes over as the coach, because like he really knows what he's doing, let's be honest. And he starts giving them really good drills, and it starts off and they're not wearing their equipment and they're going out there getting a feel for it. And Alex, of course, is worried about like hypothermia and the ice cracking on that. You know, like she says, like she feels more like the mom of the team versus the coach, which makes sense. Obviously that changes later on in the episode. And I think the smartest thing this episode did, the smartest thing, when this came on the screen, I was like, yes, this is exactly what they need, because they're adapting to a whole new time, let's say. Because in the original, if those can recall, like this is one of the most iconic things from it, the way they learn to pass is using eggs, you know, soft hands, and then they cradle it. But Bombay says, yeah, I used to use eggs, but this time we're using your phones, which is just so smart. I love how they did that. So they're putting their phones out, they're passing, and he's like, and Coop's like, don't break my screen. It's kind of funny. And then we learn that Nick has Evan as his wallpaper, which I was like, it's so random, but it's funny. Like, Nick is just, he's funny every time. Like, even his lines should be stupid, but I find them hilarious every time, where he's like, oh, are we still supposed to be mad at them? Like, there's just little things. He's really funny and really entertaining here, and you see them kind of more form as a team. And again, the show was obviously leading up to this. We were gonna have, you know, they start to form but they're not good, and then they have a fallout, and then they're back, you know, full circle type thing. And then they gotta fix Coob, because he has great hands, you know, for a goalie, but he doesn't move, he just stands there. And I was surprised they didn't take the Goldberg kind of way with it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, where obviously, you know, they tied Goldberg to the net, and he was different. Like he wasn't not moving, he was moving too much, but they didn't tie Coob to the net. But Bombay takes him over kind of like behind the net, and then he says, oh yeah, you can't skate fast, right? And he goes, yeah, it's just cracking. And then Coob kind of like tears away, and he's like, and jumps into the snow, and it's funny, but I was like, okay, that was a little bit stupid, but I think it worked better because of the actual acting in the scene. It just made it entertaining and fun to watch. The idea, not so much, but the execution was better than expected. And then the team starts to forgive Evan, but Sophie, I think that's her name. I think I finally figured out her name. I'm gonna check. It is Sophie. It only took me 7 episodes to figure it out. She's still mad at him, which makes sense, because obviously he got her off of the Don't Bothers onto this team now, and then she's mad because he basically betrayed her and all that. But then later on in the episode, they kind of forgive each other, because Evan like takes off his C and he's like, nobody's captain. I was like, yeah, okay, good message, good idea. But later on they have this talk, and she's like, yeah, you know, I didn't think that you thought of me as everyone else, like you could talk to me and all this. And I was like, okay, it's a sweet message, and a lot of the show is trying to preach good messages. So obviously, it is aimed towards kids, so it's smart. And then by the end, they do makeup, weirdly on the bench, which is funny. Like they're just talking on the bench, helmets off, everything. Which like I get they're on the bench, and he gives her like a Target knee pad. I was like, that's weird. It wasn't in the dressing room, but that's just a little thing. It doesn't really matter. But in every episode, there's like a few weird things. I never know how the hell does Evan get to practice without his mom. Like to see if other people take him. Like I don't know. It's never addressed, and it's something that I noticed like an episode or two ago, and I've always just found it weird. I don't know what it is. And how did the team like get on the ice without like a coach up there? Like they just did it themselves, and they were just gonna figure out who's gonna be playing. I don't know. Like that, I don't consider that a problem. That's just like an observation, I could say. It's funny, and then they do ask like, "Oh, who's the coach?" And then Alex is like, "Me, I am," because her and Bombay have a talk, and then she's kind of pushed to do it by like her boss who really wants to mess with the don't bother, so that's what she does it. But it's a good message. My favorite thing I think about this episode, besides the whole eggs to phone switch around thing, was what they did with Sam. I can totally understand if people don't like this, but I thought it was smart because Sam is really upset with what Evan did, and like the one thing I didn't so much like is like the turtle origami thing, which is weird. But basically the idea was that he's upset because, you know, his whole life basically he goes to school, he goes to the mall, he skates down flights of stairs and he crashes in and stuff, and then old people yell at him, and he's known as like the daredevil. He's out there to have fun and crash and all that, and it's fun to watch, but he's upset because it was the first time he felt like he belonged to something, and then they kind of just threw it away. And I think that's totally the way they should have dealt with his character. I think it was a smart way to do it. And then obviously Evan, Nick, and Coob, I think it's just them. They kind of motivate him to kind of get back into it and say like, no, we need you. But I think it's smart what they did with Sam because it shows that the crazy daredevil guy actually kind of cares, and they get him back into it by like saying X Games, and he like skateboards and crashes into like a garbage can, and then he blocks a shot out on the ice while yelling X Games. It was smart. And I also have to say the Hornets are the worst damn team ever. How did they let that final goal in? I get it, you know, Alex come back and, well, they're in the pond, she puts on blindfolds, all that whole part, I was like, oh, that's kind of stupid. And somehow, you know, we know they're going to win, and they managed to score a final goal by all closing their eyes and shooting. And Evan closes his eyes to take the face off, and the other guy's like, huh? What are you doing? it's like this weird thing, and then the goalie skates out to like the D, and he's just like, are they allowed to do that? And then the ref drops the puck, and Evan like takes it, passes it to the defense. I can't tell if it was in slow-mo or not, if it was intentionally or if they were just passing it slow, passes it back to the D, and then the left D passes it to I think the right defense, and then they shoot and it goes in. And it's just like, I don't know how the other team, like, I get how they were confused with closing their eyes a little bit, but then the second the puck drops, why did none of them move? They all kind of just stood there and they scored. It was just a little thing. It was kind of a weird ending, but I think this episode was overall pretty good. There were some high highs and some low lows here, but overall, I think this was a solid episode, and I'm going to give episode 7 of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers a 3.5 out of 5. I almost pushed it to a 4 out of 5, and actually I talked a lot this episode. This is the one that I feel like I've probably discussed the most, which is surprising because I thought I talked most about the last one because it was the best one, although I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the show. There have been some like little twists, as I said, like the thing with Sam, not a twist, but like little kind of add-on thing, although some of these characters are kind of pointless, and they have like this little 2-second joke with the Czech kids where they're just arguing with each other and we have no idea what they're saying. It's kind of funny, but thank you all for watching. Tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.